The best of money matters. Wealth Tracker.
Welcome to the Wealth Tracker, where we dive into the uncharted territories of niche investment strategies that promise to redefine wealth. Hello, I'm Hongbin Jeong. While serving national service, the NS Allowance is the only source of income available for most NSFs. But earlier in March this year, the Ministry of Defense announced another round of increment in NSF Allowance. So how can we harness that small sum in order to make smart financial moves leading to financial freedom? Well, to find out more is Wayne Cheong, who is a former Singapore Armed Forces military regular turned financial consultant. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me on the show. So before I begin, I just want to highlight that whatever I'm about to share is just merely my personal opinion and not financial advice.
Right, all right. Well, okay, so serving national service is already taxing for most national servicemen here, Wayne. But why should NSFs consider investing their allowance instead of spending it, or keeping it aside as savings?
Yeah, I totally get it. As someone who served as a regular in the SAF, I know how demanding NS can be. Between the physical training, adapting to military life, and just trying to get enough rest, it can feel like there's no time or energy left to think about money, so let alone investing it. But hear me out. I really believe that putting some of your NS allowance into investments, instead of just spending it or letting it sit in savings, can actually be a smart move.
Okay.
Let me explain why. So first, NS is actually a great time to start learning about money. Most NSFs don't have to worry about big expenses like rent, supporting a family just yet. So that means you've got some room to experiment and build good financial habits. It's the perfect time to get comfortable with managing your own money. Second, there's the power of compound interest, and it's real. So even small amounts, even invested regularly, can grow into something pretty significant over time. So the earlier you start, the more you stand to gain in the long run. Third, you can start exploring different ways to invest. With the 2 years you've got in NS, there's enough time to ride out some of the ups and downs of the market. You don't have to go all in. Even putting a small amount into safer options like Singapore savings bonds or T-bills can be a great start. Or you might want to tip your toes into ETFs or stocks and just see how they work. And finally, Singapore's got a bunch of great resources to help you learn. Stuff like the Money Sense program, CPF education, financial literacy courses, they're all free and super helpful. NS is a chance to test the waters and apply what you learn in real time with your own money. And honestly, that experience will pay off big time once you're out in the working world. So NS is tough, no doubt, but if you can set aside even a little bit to invest, it's a smart step that can really set you up for the future.
Or tuning into Money FM 89.3, right? That gives you a lot of financial knowledge. Well, what are the current investment trends you're seeing amongst NSFs then?
From what I've seen, especially through chats with a couple of my ex-trainees recently, there's definitely growing interest among NSFs in things like crypto and stocks. And these tend to be the hot topics when it comes to investing. But that said, I wouldn't say it's reflective of all NSFs. So it's more common among those who already have a bit of financial curiosity or they take the initiative to explore investing on their own. But what's interesting is how accessible everything is now. So with tech and social media, it's really easy for NSFs to find financial influencers or even quick guides online. So even if someone's just starting out, there are tons of resources that can help them take the first step into investing.
And as you mentioned earlier, there's a school of thought in which national service is the best time to save money because you'll be staying in camp most of the time and food is provided, via the cookhouses. And of course, you don't really need to spend the money on rent or building a family just yet, right? So should NSFs prioritize saving for emergencies before investing? And how can they balance both in that instant, in your opinion?
Logically, yeah, that makes sense, right? You're in camp most of the time. Meals are provided at the cookhouse. So in theory, you shouldn't be spending much. But trust me, after a full day of training, especially for those in the combat vocations, 3 meals sometimes just isn't enough. So the moment you get the green light from a superior to head to the canteen during the day or even order in at night, most guys aren't thinking about saving. They're just thinking, hey, I'm starving, I need food now. And even if you somehow manage to spend nothing in camp, the minute you're out for the weekend, you just want to treat yourself a little bit better, right? Grab some proper civilian food, chill a bit, maybe spend a little more than usual just to make up for the week. It's a reward, right? I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to the individual. Some guys are naturally more disciplined with money. others just want to enjoy the moment.
Right.
So it's about whether saving is even on their radar during this phase of life.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that because just earlier when I was discussing, NSF allowance with our co-host here, Willie K, he was also talking about when back in his day, he also would spend money during the weekends out with friends, just letting loose. But as mentioned earlier, the Ministry of Defense has announced an increase in the NSF's allowances starting the 1st of July this year. Now, it is said that every NSF will receive an increment of $35 Sing dollars to $75 in their monthly allowances. So let's take into consideration that the lowest NSF allowance meant for a private rank is about $755. How much of the NSF allowance is realistically investable after accounting for basic expenses such as food and transport?
Okay, whoa, I didn't know privates earn so much nowadays. Not bad, huh? Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, everyone's situation is different. So let's say you're private earning $755 and then you stay out. If you're based in Pasir Ris Camp and also live in Pasir Ris, your transport cost should be quite manageable. Maybe under $50 a month, unless you are taking Grab every day. But if you're like me last time, staying in Jurong East and having to report to Pasir Ris Camp, that's a different story. The most I ever paid for Grab was $50+ in one trip just because I overslept. So if you're running late and you decide to Grab to camp, boom, that's $50 gone right there. So you'll be left with about $700. Now, if you're a stay-out NSF, you probably spend more on food and activities, right? So maybe, let's say, $500 a month. That leaves you with roughly $200. Or should I say you can afford to Grab to camp 4 more times? So it depends on your priorities.
Right.
But seriously, if all your home expenses are taken care of today, and you don't have to support anyone else, then the leftover after your fixed expenses is your investable amount. I guess at the end of the day, I really believe it's still about mindset. Someone who values investing will find a way, maybe sacrifice a weekend of nights out with friends. But someone who doesn't see the point in it could be earning double or triple the amount and still not set aside a single dollar to invest.
Right. I mean, that's the problem that not even just NS men have, but everyone, right? You need to have that mindset to start saving. But if they do have that mindset here, what is the smart way for NSFs to maximize this opportunity presented with the increment? Is it even possible to invest with as little as $100 or less per month?
Definitely. Even with just $100 a month, you can start investing. It might feel like a small amount at the start, but over time, it adds up and it can help you build a decent portfolio. Of course, with $100, you might not be jumping straight into individual stock picks. Some of those can get pretty pricey, but there are still smarter, more accessible options. For example, ETFs or exchange-traded funds are a great way to start. So they basically pool money from a bunch of investors and invest in a wide range of stocks or bonds, which helps spread out the risk. Plus, many of them have low entry points. Next thing, real estate investment trusts, or commonly known as REITs, are another solid option if you are curious about real estate. Some REITs can be bought with just a couple $100 and they pay dividends too, which is a nice bonus.
Right.
And today, if you're someone who really don't want to manage your investments yourself, robo-advisors are a great alternative. I'm not going to say the names here, but just Google robo-advisors Singapore and you'll see a few decent ones. So these platforms let you start with as little as $100 a month and they'll automatically build and manage a diversified portfolio based on your risk profile. And fees are generally low. So yeah, even if you are starting small, I think the important thing here is to start. You'll be surprised how far that habit can take you.
So you mentioned ETFs, REITs, and robo-advisors there. Are they the beginner-friendly investment options for NSFs with limited capital, or are there more options?
I would say today, if you are someone who barely has time for yourself during NS, then you can consider even outsourcing your investments. In Singapore, there are a bunch of beginner-friendly options, things like regular saving plans or robo-advisors, like I mentioned. So this let you invest as little as $100 a month, and everything is mostly automated. So here's how it works. You set a fixed monthly contribution, and the platform invests it into a mix of assets like ETFs or mutual funds based on your risk profile.
Right.
So you don't need to monitor it daily. It just runs in the background while you focus on your training and life goes on. So I think it's a great way to start building wealth early without needing to be an expert or spend hours researching. And at the same time, you can use this time to start building up your knowledge.
Well, still attempting to invest at a young age can be confusing, let alone NSFs who will not have, the bandwidth to keep up with it due to training. So what are the risks involved in investing as a young NSF and how can they manage them?
Okay, so obviously investments all have risks. So I think one of the common mistakes is I see a lot of young investors not having a clear financial goal. Do you ever notice that?
Yeah.
A lot of people just dive into investing without knowing why they are doing it. Without a goal or purpose.
Yes, I've been there, I've done that.
It's easy to get caught up in the ups and downs of the market or make decisions based on emotions. So the key is to set specific yet measurable goals. For example, you need to ask yourself, are you investing to save for your university school fees, a house or retirement? Knowing your goal makes it easier to figure out the right investment strategy. Also, it's important to think long term, especially if you're a young NSF. I mean, you got time on your side, right?
Right.
So instead of chasing quick wins, focus on things with longer time horizons, which is years down the road.
Right.
So low risk, long-term investments can be a great way to grow your money steadily over time. Another common pitfall is chasing short-term gains. You know how people get excited about the idea of making a quick profit?
Right.
They try to time the market or pick hot stocks, but that often ends in disappointment when the market corrects itself. So a better approach is to focus on long-term, diversified investments. Things like ETFs, robo-advisors are great for steady growth without the stress of trying to time the market. And don't forget about dollar cost averaging. That's just investing a fixed amount regularly, no matter what the market's doing. So it's a great way to avoid the temptation to buy based on hype.
Okay. So what are some of the resources or tools that you would recommend for NSFs who are keen to learn more about investing?
So these days, there are so many resources available, especially with technology. Honestly, I think it's never been easier to learn. For me, books were a solid starting point for grabbing the basics of investing. There are some great books that break things down very simply. So one of my personal favorites is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
It's not your typical investment book, but it's fantastic for understanding the mindset behind financial literacy and investing. It focuses a lot on things like assets, passive income, which I think is really valuable for young people who are just starting to think differently about money. I also used to spend a lot of time on Investopedia.
Okay.
It's a great website with loads of easy to understand resources on investing, financial analysis, and trading. They even have online courses now that dive deep into these topics. And let's not forget YouTube. There are tons of channels out there that are all about teaching investing. So just find one that resonates with you the most and offer the kind of value you're looking for. But hey, if you prefer something more personal, feel free to hit me up on Instagram. I'm always happy to share tips.
Right. Well, every investment, even if you're young or old, you need to do your research first before you start investing. Well, before we let you go here, Wayne, looking ahead, what's the one piece of advice you would give to every NSF personnel about using their allowance to build long-term financial freedom?
Well, I get that NS can feel like a very tough and demanding part of life, but here's the thing. It's actually a great time to start building financial independence and discipline. So I've been going through it myself the last 6 years, transitioning from NS to regular service and then now a civilian. I can tell you that investing your allowance, even if it's just a small amount, is one of the smartest moves you can make. Starting early gives you the chance to take full advantage of Singapore's investment opportunities. It helps you build a solid financial foundation that will set you up for a more secure future once you complete your NS. It's not about just growing your money, it's about setting yourself up for long-term success, both financially and personally, in the years to come.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights today, Wayne. That was Wayne Cheong, who is a former Singapore Armed Forces military regular turned financial consultant. This has been The Wealth Tracker with me, Hongbin Jeong.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance. To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.